What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and we are back with Criminal Minds, Season 13, Episode 16, The Last Gasp. So, after the last episode, of course, it picks up pretty much exactly where you expect it to. Everybody is split apart, they're doing their own thing. We see JJ is kind of like in charge of the BAU, but I don't think she's like a field agent. She's more of like just kind of running the operations, trying to get cases brought into the BAU, and Barnes is just shutting her down because, oh, that's not high profile enough. Oh, that doesn't make the BAU look good. I'm like, people are dying. Are we just ignoring this fact? We still don't get an answer for that in this episode, and that is something that is a little bit frustrating to me, is that I wanted to know after last episode, how is it that she has so much power to where she puts somebody's life in danger, and somehow she's the one that gets, whoever's in charge of the director of the FBI, she somehow gets his favor in that. You nearly made the BAU look bad. I mean, you took a civilian into the line of fire and got her shot. Thankfully, she had a bulletproof vest on, and thankfully, the guy didn't shoot her in the head. But it's like nobody thinks about that. Nobody looks at that. Oh, but the BAU, I mean, we needed to solve that quicker so it could look good. How is getting somebody shot looking good? How is just turning down case after case, how does that look good? And the thing is, if they made it make sense, I would be okay with this. Like if it were cases that are like, oh, well, it's just, it's just one person died, and maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody else is already on the case, or maybe, oh, the police can handle that case. If that were the reasoning, I could kind of buy it. But it's the fact that she's just like turning them down. These two bank robbers going and killing bankers. Oh, nobody's really going to care about them. These immigrant elderly ladies getting killed. Oh, that's too divisive. The BAU is turning down cases where people are dying now, and it's a serial killer. That doesn't look good for the BAU. I don't care what you say. And that's one thing that they never touch on. They never figure out how she has so much just pull in the FBI to where she can literally turn down cases where people are dying and just ignore the fact that people are dying, and somehow she's okay. She's all good. She's doing her job well. I don't get that. I don't see how that happens. But so that's JJ's. She's talking to her a lot. What's his name? Alves and Matt. Yes, they're the ones still on the BAU team. Still working for the BAU. We see Penelope has gone to cybercrimes. Of course, she doesn't like her job there. The boss is, of course, the guy who isn't. He's like hard on her. He's strict. He's like, you can only have 3 things on your desk. You can't have all those things. And of course, she's finding stuff that's like, this is important. And he's just like, whatever. We're only doing some of the work here. We see the team got a new person to step in for Penelope, and he's not doing a good job. We see Tara is helping, I guess, these partners in the BAU, or not the BAU, the FBI, try to figure out their differences because they're working together and not really working well together. We see Prentice is on some sort of team where they track down, it's almost like internal affairs for the FBI, and that's how the episode opens up, is them tracking down this FBI agent who's apparently been hiring hookers. We see Reed, there were 2 funny ones. Reed was one of the funny ones. We see he's teaching a class, but what was hysterical about it, for those of you who have watched Criminal Minds for a long time, you know that the eye candy on the show was Morgan. Like, most of the women you talk to them, if they watch Criminal Minds, like, oh my gosh, Shamar Moore's Morgan is just so good. But there were some women out there who were also very hot on Reed too, because, not only is he is pretty good looking, but he's also got the brains, and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, Matt Gray Goobler. And so it was just funny to me that he's teaching this class and all of these women are sitting in there and they're just giving him the he's so dreamy eyes. And I'm cracking up because he's sitting there teaching and none of them are paying attention to what he's saying. They're just like, and so he's finally like, this will definitely be on the test, so you probably want to get your notebooks out and write this down. And this woman was like, oh, I'm just auditing the class. He's like, oh, how many of you are auditing the class? And like a whole section of them raised their hands. I don't know, I thought it was funny. And then we see Rossi was the other funny one. He is now a writer on, like, I guess a movie or TV show of some kind. And so they have this, a chase scene going on. The guy comes around the corner, freeze, scumbag, holding the gun sideways. And so, of course, Rossi, the FBI agent, steps in and he's like, okay, look, you need to make sure whenever you're holding the gun, you hold it like this. It gives you more stability so you're not going to hit an innocent bystander. Also, you don't say freeze scumbag. It's FBI, you're under arrest. And the guy's just like, but it didn't really feel organic to me. And Rossi gets the call right then about the case that they need to work on. He's like, yes, I'm definitely in. So it's just, I don't know, it was funny to see those two. But anyway, on to the actual case itself. Pretty much there's this guy that's been killing women for years. Garcia picks it up in her cybercrimes thing. She sees pictures of women that are apparently being sold to all these people. And so she finds it, she sends it to JJ. JJ tries to take it to Barnes. Barnes shuts it down, and so she gets everybody in secret to meet and talk about the case. And so they start working it in the background. And here's the problem. They end up, it pretty much goes exactly how you'd expect it to from there. They're trying to track it down. At one point, they find information that they need to access and they need Barnes' permission to. Barnes, of course, turns them down. And so they keep looking into it. Garcia, they have her, while she's working at cybercrimes, have her find some information. One of the girls there that was super nice to Garcia when she first showed up, she manages to intercept their boss to keep him from finding out what Garcia is doing, and that helps them find the final information. And, they solve the case. Senator's daughter is saved, and so then Prentice pretty much tells him everything that happened with Barnes, and so the BAU is back together, and Barnes is kind of pushed to the side by the FBI director saying you can't touch the BAU anymore. Here's the problem with this. It's exactly how I expected it to go when I thought about this episode. When I thought about the fact that this is probably going to be the episode where the team gets back together, this is exactly how I expected it to go. I'm a little bit frustrated because I feel like this season, this is what it was sort of building up to. And so now with the last, I don't know how many episodes are left, probably 6 or 7, with these last few episodes, it kind of feels like, what are you going to do now? Because from the beginning of the season, the cliffhanger from last season to the beginning of this season, it feels like it's been building up to this. Barnes steps in and kind of evaluates the team, sees all of the problems that they had. Mr. Scratch dies. All of the stuff that happened with Stephen Walker, all the stuff what happened with Reed last season, all of that is leading up to Barnes disbands the team. And it's over the next episode. They're back together. Barnes is told to push off. I just kind of feel like they could have done a bit more with it. If they had waited maybe a couple more episodes, maybe Barnes' last episode, she kind of has her say and the team doesn't really respect it. And so then we don't see her for a couple episodes. It's like, well, I guess she's kind of gone away from somewhere. Maybe she's leaving us alone now. And then she comes in 2 episodes from now and steps in and says, the directors give me full access to do what I please with the FBI based on your last couple cases. Maybe one of the cases actually goes wrong. And then she disbands the team. Well, you have now 3 or 4 episodes to end out the season. And maybe there's just this one big epic case that does involve, a senator and a governor or something like that. And so now they're trying to solve this case without Barnes' permission, and maybe things go wrong. Whenever Barnes figures out they're working on this case, maybe she has one of them arrested because they're not supposed to be working on the case. Maybe they access files they're not supposed to, so that person gets arrested. Now, part of the team is in prison. It could have been so much more epic and intense, and instead they just kind of wrap it up in one episode, and now it's done. The team is back together. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad the team is back together. I'm glad Barnes gets her comeuppance. I enjoyed all of that. But I just wanted to see a bit more. I wanted to see a bit more intensity added to it. Instead of just having it, it's so easy, it's all done. Woohoo, we win the day. So I am a little bit disappointed with that. But with all of that said, the rest of it, it is enjoyable. Like I said, it's fun to see the team get back together. It's fun to see Barnes, in your face, you're about to just you're going to get told. I love the look on everybody's faces whenever Prentice tells the senator, hey, whenever JJ looked into this case, she was fired by Barnes, and the senator just looks at her, and she's just sitting there like, I regret nothing. I don't know, it's just perfect the way all of that was handled. The team gets back together, they're all laughing and just loving life again. We see kind of the little mini stories each of them had, each of them sort of wrap up. I don't know what the point of all that was. Once again, it could have been something where we see more of that those scenes could have been funnier if we had seen more of that over a few episodes instead of just one episode and then wrap it up at the end. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, I did still enjoy it. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. But that's it for this episode. So now on to the next one. See you there. And now episode 17, the Capellanos. So this one, surprisingly, even though the title sounds like it would be about some sort of mafia thing going on, no, it turns out to be about these guys and they're clowns. Definitely not at all what I was expecting whenever I was getting into it. But yeah, just kind of the typical Criminal Minds episode. Nothing really stood out to me about it. And I will say I am a little bit disappointed just because it feels like now we should start getting into, okay, what's this last part of the season going to be about? Now that we've gotten one over on Barnes, we've managed to get the team back together. Hooray, congratulations. Now let's find out what we're going to do next. Random episode. I feel like now's the time where you guys start picking things back up. It's like, okay, well, not picking things back up, but at least giving us what is the rest of the season going to be. Is it going to be Barnes still is trying to find a way to disband the team? Maybe she's working through other avenues, maybe introduce a new villain that will end out the season. But no, to just have a random episode and not even discuss what just happened makes me feel like none of that matters. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the plan is, but as far as this episode is concerned, nothing really stood out to me about it, good or bad. There was one thing that did stand out to me as pretty bad. The voice acting, because clearly all of it was shot from like a distance and it was never really up close. The second family that was killed, as they're getting home, all of it is shot from a distance, and you could just hear from the voices that clearly they shot the scene but didn't ever get close enough to do like a boom mic for them, and so all of their voices were added in post, and it just sounds awful. Like I don't know, it sounds like they're just reading the lines. I'm just like, what, did you just record the table read of the scene and just like, all right, now we just need to shoot it and we'll be done? Like, what was that? Like, they get home, I don't know about you, but I'm wiped. I'm going to go turn into bed. Okay, good night, honey. Oh, good night, honey. I love you. I'm like, what happened? Did Stephen Walker, inject some more alien robot DNA into the rest of the extra cast before he died? What was that scene? So, yeah, that was the only thing that really stood out to me is, if there was anything that stood out as, extremely good or bad, that was extremely bad. But the rest of it was just typical. They end with kind of a sad moment because these two brothers are robbing places. One brother thinks they're just robbing to get money so they can move to Florida, but the other brother is killing people, killing the parents of these kids because he's crazy and his dad beat him when he was younger. So yeah, that's pretty much, that's all it is. He's killing the people the other brother doesn't know. When the other brother finds out, he tries to leave him behind. But of course, the brother that's killing people is like, that's not going to happen. And so the FBI shows up just in the nick of time to keep the good brother of the two from killing him. But he still has to go away because he was helping the other brother rob places. Even if he didn't know he was killing him, it was still kind of like, robbing is still not any better. And so he is going away for a little while. But at the end of the episode, I kind of expected the team to be like, if he does testify against his brother, if he does sort of, give us the information we need, then we can cut down a sentence. But they don't really say anything like that. He just sort of accepts the fact that he's going away for a while. He tries to tell his family, look, get down to Florida, enjoy yourself. By the time I get out, he'll probably be in high school. I just don't want him to forget me. And then the son blows a balloon. He's like, hey, he does that. That's it. And then the son of the father that died at the beginning and his son connects. I don't know. It was just, I've seen this before in Criminal Minds. It's nothing new. So I just didn't really care that much. But yeah, so that was all for this episode. I know it's kind of short, but that's pretty much exactly it. There was nothing on the outside of this case. There's no personal life stuff going on in this one. It's just the case, and that's it. So that's all for this one. Now on to the next episode. See you guys there. And now episode 18, The Dance of Love. So this one, it was still kind of a random episode. Nothing really tying together for the end of the season, unfortunately. However, it was a bit better than the last one because it wasn't as predictable and it was actually kind of enjoyable. So first of all, we'll talk about the case itself. The reason that I did enjoy this one is because it wasn't your typical, Criminal Minds. They have had a few episodes throughout the seasons like this where they show one person, make them look like they might be a killer, as, we suddenly realize, oh wait, they're not actually the unsub. It's actually somebody else that's the unsub. This person was just made to look like the unsub. They've had a few times like this before. However, this is one where it was somebody that we had already met. And they not only did it once, they did it twice. It was actually pretty well set up. So we see this, they're trying to figure out what's going on. These women keep showing up dead, and apparently they're being killed according to song titles. And it's like, okay, so what does this mean? Well, we find out about this DJ. We see him breaking up with this girl that apparently he'd been seeing, having an affair with his wife, or having an affair. What's the terminology for that? He was having an affair. All right, let's just put it that way. With this other woman, we see him breaking up with her, and then seeing his wife. They're going to renew their vows, and so it's kind of like, okay, so it feels like he is killing these women before they renew their vows. It's almost like cleansing his slate or something in his mind. Maybe that's where this is going. And they're being killed according to titles of the song that they request on the radio. It's like, okay, that's pretty interesting. But then they show up at this woman that he just broke up with. They show up at her house thinking that she's dead. They get into a room and the guy is actually dead. And so it's kind of like, oh, so maybe it's actually the woman that he's been having the affair with. She is the one that's killing everyone to have him all to herself, which means her next target would be the wife. But then they go on the profile and they see a picture of the wife, and she's wearing the bracelet that they found on the dead body. And then we see that the woman that he was seeing, she ended up with the bracelet from him. And that's when they realize, wait a minute, the wife, she's standing in a rose garden, and look at the shears. They match up exactly with how the roses have been clipped. And that's when it hits them. It's the wife that's been killing all of these women that he's been seeing. Or not necessarily he's been seeing, but the women that are requesting these songs. To her, it's like she hears him talking to all of these women, and it's like he's talking to them, but not to me, even though he's married to me. And it's just, I don't know, it was very clever the way they set it up. It's one of the few cases, I think, maybe it's happened 2 other times in the entirety of the 13 seasons we've had, where we actually did meet the unsub beforehand, and then they kind of switch it around and make us look like, oh, well, it's this guy that's the unsub, before we come back to, no, it's actually her, and somebody we already knew. And that's something that's unique for Criminal Minds. Most of the time they don't do stuff like that. They just make it to where, oh, the unsub is somebody we don't know, and then they introduce them. It's like, oh, okay, it's this person. So this one, it was a little bit different. It was a little bit more intricate, and I enjoyed that. It was very, very well set up in that case. Aside from that, though, nothing else about this case really stands out. It's pretty general the way they figure out the clues. I don't really know if there are any clues to help us figure it out. It still is a show where you don't really get clues to solve the mystery. It's the team figuring it all out, and that is something that's just, it's a Criminal Minds thing. But then the other story going on is also fairly interesting. We see Rossi, one of his ex-wives, comes back into town, and so they go to see each other. She says that her daughter is getting married to this guy. He's from Savannah, Georgia. She's like, but he doesn't talk like that. And just, okay, whatever. Why have that at all then? But yeah, so she's like, I'll bring him down, and Rossi's like, yeah, I'll give him a tour of the BAU. And so as they're giving the tour, there's this one moment where Garcia comes back into the room with Rossi's ex-wife and her daughter, and they're all laughing, and her fiance is like, so what were you guys laughing about? And she's like, oh, it was nothing. He's like, are you sure it was nothing? And the way he's saying it, I mean, anyone can read the situation and see, okay, clearly this guy, he's got some control issues. He really wants to be in control, and he's not this nice guy that he was just portraying a few minutes ago. So you can kind of get a sense of where this is going. Rossi has Penelope look into it. She manages to find that he's been engaged 3 other times, and then they get married, and then the marriage falls through, and he ends up with quite a lot of money coming out of it. And Rossi ends up finding out that, or realizing that apparently after they get married, he turns into an abusive husband, and then to sort of get out of the marriage, he has them settle on a large amount of money to get him to leave. And so, of course, he tells his ex-wife and her daughter, and the daughter gets super pissed. She leaves the room. She's like, "Whatever, Mom. I can't believe you had him do this." He's like, "No, it was me." She's like, "I'm leaving," and then leaves. And then the mom, gets super upset at Rossi for figuring all of this out, and she leaves. I'm just like, why? He just helped your daughter realize that she was about to make a horrible mistake and she was about to end up in this terrible relationship, and yet the daughter decides she's going to go through with the wedding anyway. But thankfully, the husband or the fiance is an idiot because he actually goes to Rossi because he wants to taunt him a little bit. He's like, "So yeah, we're still going through with the wedding, and the only reason you're not invited anymore. I just wanted to tell you to see that look of disappointment on your face." And of course, Rossi takes that moment to grab his hand and start to twist it, and just threaten him a little bit. And I love this scene from Rossi because you get to see it's kind of one of those dual things where you see that the team, they are very good at profiling. They are very good at reading the mind of a criminal, but that also means that they can think like a criminal as well. But of course, they're all good people, so normally they don't have that side of them pop up. But in this case, this guy's about to hurt somebody that, you know, Rossi, he doesn't necessarily care about her directly, but he cares about her mother. And so, of course, he doesn't want to see anything bad happen to her either. And so he does threaten this guy, and it's a good scene for Rossi. First he's like, "I'm not just going to break your hand, I might break your face too." And then he lets go of the guy, and he's just like, "Look, this wedding is happening, and there's nothing you can do about it." And then that's when Rossi says, "Well, I put a lot of bad guys away, so I'm not sure why you think you can scare me. In fact, there's a parole hearing coming up for just one of these men, and, well, I might just not show up for that parole hearing, and maybe they'll let him free, and he might feel like he owes me something. Now, I wonder what I can do to really make this guy feel like he can pay me back." And of course, the guy, realizing what he's saying, and this is just like, whatever, she's not worth it anyway, and then leaves. And so there is a nice moment at the end of the episode where his ex-wife does come talk to him as he's playing solitaire, and there's a little bit of that chemistry still there, and she realizes that he is just trying to help. Even if he is trying, he is getting a little bit invasive into their personal stuff. It is just he's trying to keep her safe, and she realizes that, and she says, "My daughter, she'll eventually realize that as well. She just has bad taste in men, much like her mom." So I don't know. It was just a nice little scene. It was nice to see Rossi get the respect he deserves for what he did for them. So I don't know. I enjoyed that story. It was a nice little story, even if it was a little bit predictable, just because, I mean, the guy, you can almost tell from the beginning that you saw him that something was going to be up with him. So that was a little bit predictable, but it ended on a pretty nice note where Rossi got one over on him, and then he ends up sort of being thanked for it. So, yeah, I mean, both sides of this episode were enjoyable. It may not have tied into a larger story yet, but hopefully they still have something in mind because there are, I think, 4 episodes left after this one. So I'm hoping next episode, there's only one more left before I'm caught up. I'm hoping that maybe they'll be able to tell me what's going to happen for the rest of the season. We'll see. But yeah, that's it for this one. So on to the last of these 4, and then I'll be caught up. See you guys there. And last up, episode 19, Ex Parte. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. So this one, it was okay. Part of the problem is that we haven't really known Matt and his wife long enough to really get the emotion out of this that I think the episode is trying to bring. Don't get me wrong, it is intense at some points, but I feel like if they had given us some more time with them, I think this episode would have been much more effective. But as it stands, it's just kind of another episode. His wife goes to work for this new place. Apparently, these guys just happen to attack it on her first day. The son of this guy who was apparently running, I don't know, some racist group way back when, his son is trying to get him out of prison, and I don't really know why they specifically attacked this place. It seems like that's the only reason why is just because, oh yeah, I'll get the FBI's attention, then we can get my dad out of there, or else I'll start killing hostages. So, that's pretty much all this episode is. At one point, this is the one thing that really did piss me off in this episode. At one point, Matt's wife, she is in there. She manages to contact the FBI through her the cell phone she got for him. She had already turned in her own cell phone, so she contacts him through this little earpiece. And she's talking to him, and Garcia manages to tap into the phone and get video up. And so she sets it up as a little video so they can see what's going on in the office, and they can see everybody in there too. The frustrating thing about this is this random guy who's also trapped in there with them starts getting super pissed at her. And it's like, what is that supposed to do, huh? What is that? In clear view of the people that are holding them hostage. Why? I mean, if I saw somebody trying to save our life by setting up a little camera that the guys couldn't see, I would say nothing. The guys already assumed they got our phones, so they're not going to be looking for any cameras, And I don't know, it was kind of dumb. It was like this one guy he starts making a scene because the bad guys have to see her phone somehow, and so they make this one guy an idiot. And I just feel like that was a dumb way to do it. There could have been other ways. Maybe for some reason somebody tries to call that phone for some reason, or maybe, some email gets sent to that phone, something like that. Or maybe, the guys in the office, they start fighting, because we saw that one guy, he wasn't agreeing with everything they were doing. He wasn't exactly on board. He didn't kill the two guys when he was told to. He said, take care of him. He said, don't worry, I will, and then doesn't shoot him. So maybe they're fighting, and then he throws them up against the bookcase. That knocks the phone down. And that's when they realize, oh, somebody's been videotaping us. And that's when they take her into the other room and threaten to shoot her. But instead it just turns into, oh, no, this one random guy that we don't know who he is starts acting like a douchebag and just starts yelling at her, and then is like pointing at the bookcase. When it's like, why? Oh, well, we gotta have him find out somehow, so let's do it as unnatural as possible. So that was the one thing that did piss me off in this episode. The rest of it was just, it was okay. It got intense at some points. I mean, the moment when he was about to shoot her, for a moment, I really thought that it might happen. But ultimately, it's not going to, because, I don't know, for some reason, nothing bad ever happens to the family members except for Hotch's wife that one season. So yeah, that's pretty much all for this episode. It was fairly cut and dry. They managed to stop him. The guy that was his son was trying to get him out of prison. He still is getting the injection, the death penalty, and then his son is going to as well. So it's, all's well that ends well, I suppose. Yeah, so, there's nothing else really. There's a little bit of conversation between Matt and his wife about him using a new phone, and that's honestly all there is. By the end of the episode, he is using the new phone because she used it to save her own life, kind of. So yeah, I know that's really cut and dry way, but honestly, the rest of it is just typical Criminal Minds, so there's not really much else to it aside from the fact that Matt's wife is involved, and then that one scene that pissed me off, so that's, I really don't know what else to say, so still waiting for them to do something to sort of end off the season, bring in something else that's going to be intense and give us an epic finish to the season. I don't know if they're going to, or if it's just going to be, the final episode is very intense, if that'll be all it is. But yeah, I'm kind of back and forth. Sometimes I feel like, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do next, and sometimes I'm like, I feel like they don't have much of a plan. So we'll see what's going to happen next, but that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think about these past 4 episodes. Let me know, we can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Criminal Minds reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.